You're watching the TGM production. Welcome to Tom Mason The Interviews, the series where I interview people over video conferencing. This week I'm interviewing Freddie Davies. Hello and welcome back to Tom Mason The Interviews. Now, if you've seen my previous interviews, you will have known I upgraded from the room lights, which are not the most brightest thing in the universe, to another light. If I can, oh yeah, I can demonstrate, but that is dead. So we move on. We move. Well, we attempt to move on. If I don't get stuck, get back to the middle. As you do. Try. If you don't succeed, don't give up because you'll probably fall over and that'll be a lot more funnier. So there's always comedy value in your mistakes. But we shall crack on. There is going to be more interviews in the pipeline, which is not a pipe or a line, but we shall crack straight on. He is best known for appearing on the far superior program to what we've got now. Britain's Got, well, to say Britain's Got Talent, I'm not too sure anymore. It's been 20 years. How much talent have we got left? But he's best known for appearing on the brilliant Opportunity Knocks. It's one and only Freddie Davies.
Hello there.
So we
Good
shall.
afternoon, and nice to see you.
I see it too. Now we shall start at the very beginning. Because Julie Andrews once said it was a good place to start, and so far she's not been wrong. How did you get into the wonderful world I like to call ha 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 comedy?
Right. Well, when I was very young, and when I was very old, my grandfather was a musical comedian called
Mm.
Jack Herbert. So I used to go and watch him when I was a very small kid. I mean, when I say very small, from the age of what, 4, 5, 6, 7, I used to watch him in Variety, which was touring at the time. And when it was during the war, mainly, but there was a little theatre, well, quite a big theatre in Salford, where I was eventually evacuated to. And I'd trot myself around there every Monday, first house, and watch the show. And the odd occasion that Jack, my granddad, would appear there. But I would visit him wherever he was. If he was in the Manchester area, I would go and see him work. And so I grew up with this longing to be like him. I wanted to be a stand-up comic. And that's how it started. And I had my first chance when I was 10 because I was taken back to London, where from the place of my birth, and my grandmother took me back there, and I had a month's summer holiday, and she took me around all the variety theatres that were around London, still running at the time, and I saw all the great variety acts work, and it was a marvelous experience. And during that visit in 1947, which is a long time ago, I went to my cousin's pub in Walthamstow, which was called the Crooked Billet.
Yeah.
I was made to stand on the chair and tell jokes, and I did this during my granddad's act, and that was my first stand-up. That was in 1947, and next year I will be celebrating 80 years in showbiz. Would you believe?
Wow. And when you started doing comedy, did your comedic style be inspired by what you had seen, or did you already have an idea of what type of style you wanted to
I
produce
didn't
when
know
you got
what the
there?
hell I wanted to do. I'll be quite honest with you. I just copied him and told jokes. You know, I was just a
Yeah,
cheeky little son, really. I would be at that age, wouldn't I?
yeah,
And anyway, as I say, it was uh, I was just telling jokes really and trying to put an act together. I mean,
yeah.
it wasn't an act properly. I mean, I didn't really put an act together
Mm.
really until I went to Butlins as a redcoat.
Yeah.
And then I started to realize that what I was doing really wasn't that great. And I had to find something that was more individual to me,
Mm.
which of course I found very quickly after leaving Butlins, because at Butlins, of course, I had to have a certain discipline.
Yeah.
I had to do what they wanted me to do. And when I left, I did what I felt I wanted to do. And that's how I developed my act after that.
Yeah. And do you think that doing something like Buckland and its other competitors, I don't know if Pontins is still knocking about, but that's the only other competitor I can think of. But do you think that doing that type of thing helps you to sort of improve your stage presence? Because if you get the opportunity to talk to an audience that are there, just also they're there for the holiday, but they're also there for the people that work at the said venue.
Tom, it was
Yeah.
my entire Butlins was my entire apprenticeship.
Yeah.
I didn't go to uni. I mean, in the 40s, you know, when everybody was destitute after the war,
Yeah.
desperate. I mean, we lived in terrible conditions in Salford in Lancashire, and it was just awful. So it was never mooted. You know, yes, there was night school and stuff, and I did all that really to improve my knowledge of of sums and reading. I was a prolific reader, and that of course helps to educate you, of course. But I didn't really crave
Yeah.
a academic career. I wanted to be a comic, and
Yeah.
nobody could understand what you had to do that.
Yeah.
So what you say is quite correct. Did it help? It was my apprenticeship, Butlins. I did 6 years from 1958 until 63. I was there for 6 years, and it was everything to me. It
Yeah.
taught me how to walk on the stage, how to talk to an audience. I mean, when I say a stage, I mean a theatre
Yeah.
stage, right?
Yeah.
And how to talk to an audience, how to handle an audience, how to handle different types of audiences, what would be acceptable and what wouldn't be acceptable. Particularly in those days, you had to
Yeah.
be squeaky clean. And it just taught me everything I think I needed to know. Taught me about stagecraft. I watched other performers working, and that was really the best thing, to watch other performers work, because then you learn you learn what not to do, really.
Yeah.
Basic.
Yeah, and you mentioned night school there. My main question is, why do they not call regular school day school if they've got a night school? Or they could have a day school in the morning and a mid-afternoon school in the afternoon, and then you have your night school. Um, but that is one of the worst jokes I've ever come up with. Wow. But one of the things you've worked on most recently that I think it's in a realm of sitcoms that are incredible because well, most sitcoms from Britain are incredible. But the less we say about American, the better. But what was it like appearing in an episode of the fantastic Power of Parker?
Well, I mean, it was a filmed series in Manchester, and I enjoyed it enormously. I mean, it was lovely meeting Sean, who was the star of the show, obviously, and it was a program, for her. Really, it was put together for her talents, and she's brilliant. I mean, she helped write it, and I think she did write it, most of it anyway, with a partner who came from Stockport. So they wrote the thing together, and it was about Stockport. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, they offered me the part of playing this old clairvoyant in this nursing home,
Yeah.
which I jumped at, and it was a joy to do, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was, funnily enough, it was the same casting director who came on for me for a new series with Rob Brydon,
Yeah.
which I filmed earlier this year and is coming out, I think, later this year. It's called Bills Included, yeah, with Rob Brydon.
And do you think that because you played this uh psychic medium in Power Pack, do you think? Because I know this is well, it's not Atron. They can't be Atron until more than one person does it. But Alex Law, the very nice Alex Law, who does Country Back Teach, do you think you could take on that mantle and do your own clairvoyant based comedy shows as the character from Power Park? Because there's always scope for more comedy clairvoyance.
I don't think so. No, um, I mean, it was just a part that I learned for that series,
Yeah,
and it was fun to do. But I wouldn't. I don't think I'd carry it forward at all. No, I mean, I don't really do stand up
yeah,
anymore. I mean, I'm of an age now when I think, audiences don't want to see an old fellow walking on the stage. But and Tom, I'm very happy with where I am. I've reached this grand old age, thank God, touch wood, and I'm happy with my lot to do bits and bobs, and rest of my laurels, so to speak. But I'm very happy with my time.
Yeah, and you mentioned there about the new Rob Brydon sitcom, but do you think that appearing in the newer comedy, do you think that sort of gives you that sort of appreciation that comedy is still at the forefront of British, not just television, but Britain in general,
Oh,
because it's like a
absolutely.
serious world.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think comedy has always been king,
Yeah,
as has been proved.
yeah,
I mean, some of the biggest stars in the world, really are comedians. When you
yeah,
look at, well, particularly this country, when you look at people like Ken Dodd and Bob Monkhouse and Frankie Howard,
yeah.
and all of the wonderful comics that are a crazy gang with 5 or 6 comedians all together, going back to the days of variety. So comedy usually was always the top of the bill, and because that's what people wanted to do. They wanted to go on and enjoy a laugh and enjoy comedy, and people still do, of course.
And they say that once, I don't think they say it much anymore, that comedy was the new rock and roll. I think the only way comedy was the new rock and roll is because rock and roll played at stadiums like Wembley, and so did comedy. That's what makes it rock and roll. They share the same stage, but
Yeah,
one's probably got an actual rock on stage
yeah.
rather than the other. But one of the other things you've worked on that I think the show itself went on for so long, like, it's probably like 11 series, but you appeared in a glorious episode. What was it like appearing on the brilliant, hilarious, yet oddly, you could just watch any episode and still understand what's going on, no matter how many minutes is into it that's been airing. What was it like appearing in My Family?
Well, I did a nice episode of that with Robert Lindsay and Zoe Wanamaker. I mean, lovely. I mean, they were well established then. I mean, the series was very well established, and so it was like, it's getting into a warm glove.
Yeah,
Really, it was just felt at home. They made me feel at home, and the crew were great. We had a lot of laughs, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great fun. I mean, it's a few years ago now, but they still show it.
yeah.
Um, on the odd occasion, and it's, as I say, it. I think probably because of me, it came to its demise very early after. No, I'm only joking, but it was it was great to do. And Robert Lindsay is, of course, a consummate actor, having done everything from Richard III to My Family.
And and what because you've appeared in these shows and you walk on, you're like I think I read the phrase somewhere, a day player is a good term where you walk in, you're there for the episode and then you're out. Do you think do you think that that's a fun thing to do because you get to watch this program on TV and enjoy it, and you know that when you get the opportunity to be in an episode, you've not got as much pressure as the main cast because you're only there to enhance the story rather than trying to sort of like balance it to make sure everyone's happy.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And so, particularly when someone is so established as My Family,
Yeah,
the set's established, the characters are everybody knows what the characters do in it.
yeah,
So it's just a joy to be able to walk in and be part of that, really, and to melt in with that. Yeah, I remember my first line in My Family was hysterical. It was saying, what about I can't remember how it went now, but it was something to do with and how are you and your wife? And I said, oh, she's an old cow, which was a great opening line.
and
Oh,
and
what about your wife? And I said, oh, the cow or something. But she was a lovely old actress, actually. I can't remember. I think she's gone now, bless her. God rest her soul. But she was lovely, actually, to work with. I can't remember her name, actually. Anyway, as I say, it's about 15 years ago that.
yeah, and right at the going further back, and as I said at the very beginning, I mentioned opportunity knocks, but do you think that the evolution of the talent show, do you think the reason why it's still going strong is because there's enough there's still enough people still want variety, or do you think that it's only doing that because people want the fame? Do you think that the shows like Britain's Got Talent are still on because of the the audience like, oh, I want to see a juggler and I want to see someone spinning a plate of fire, or do you think it's because they want to be more famous than they were 4 minutes ago?
Well, there's an element of that to it, of course. I mean, I suppose people go into show business in the hope that maybe that they will, that they will be more acknowledged
Yeah,
and obviously maybe command a bit more money. But when I did Opportunity Knocks, it was a recent thing in as much as it was new. It was new. It was the first one on television. It was the first talent show on television. And Huey Green owned the rights to the title Opportunity Knocks because he'd done it on radio. So when he came to do it on television, as I say, he owned the rights. He was the compere, the MC, and ran the whole caboodle. He had a team around him who chose the talent or helped him choose the talent. But generally speaking, he had a say in what happened, good or bad, indifferent, whatever. It ran for many, many series. And I was actually on the very first series of Opportunity Knocks in 1964, which was in those days recorded on a Saturday afternoon at 2:30, and they went out as live at 7:30 in the evening, um, without any editing. So it had to be, edited on who, so to speak. They had to keep the time down, keep it. So you had to do strictly what you were supposed to do because they didn't have time to edit anything out. But it was good. I just went on and did. I only just did one joke,
mm,
which was lasted about 4 minutes, so it was perfect for television,
yeah,
and it worked. And I have to say that in those days, 24 million people were watching.
wow,
There was only two channels, or I think maybe just Virgin on three.
yeah,
So everybody watched ITV or seemed to.
yeah,
And it was the Saturday night viewing thing, 7:30 Saturday night, Opportunity Knocks, the big peak time variety TV show.
yeah,
And
and
when I did it, it was in black and white.
yeah,
So um, yeah, I mean, it became in color later on, but generally it was when it first started, it was just black and white TV. So I was happy to do it. I recently put a clip from that first TV, which I found by chance.
yeah.
I put it up on YouTube so people could see it. Yeah.
And because of the way these programs work, and you're in for the competition, before you went to the recording of your episode, did you go to clubs beforehand to practice your material to make sure that it got the right amount of laughs you were after? So when you're on TV, you knew it was gonna like cheer up, he's gonna make the crowd laugh and it'll get the reaction you're after.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I was working in the clubs. I mean, I was a working comic.
Yeah.
I was working the clubs. I just finished at Butlins about 10 months earlier
Mm.
and tried to develop my act, which of course I was in the,
Yeah.
the throes of doing. And one of the jokes in my act was this thing about a guy going in the pet shop and complaining about a budgerigar. So I used two characters.
Yeah.
One was an aggressive character with a hat on who went in and complained about the fact that he'd sold him a budgie and it didn't talk. Why didn't it talk? You see, and the poor fella behind the counter
Mm.
was me without the hat,
Yeah.
and so he answered him, and because he'd been aggressive, he called because he was a pet shop. He called him Parrotface.
Yeah.
I say, come here, Parrotface, and that was became the gimmick. The fact that he called him Parrotface, and that's what I put under my name, Parrotface. So people would possibly remember it was this guy going in a pet shop calling him Parrotface, um, in the hope that they would remember the name. Because people don't remember names.
Yeah.
They remember faces and that. But anyway, that was the idea.
Yeah. And one of the other things you've worked on, which was, um, I mean, it's going to be the worst. It's going to be in the top 10 list of worst jokes you could think of, which is a very funny film, no pun intended. Um, what was it like working on the film Funny Bones?
Well, that came about because years before, in 1972, I was in a panto and directing this particular panto down in Ipswich. And I had a friend in Blackpool, a couple, who used to have a shop in the Metropole building, which housed Butlins. Butlins was a big hotel, and on the ground floor there were several shops which actually faced the outside world. They weren't actually in the hotel;
Yeah.
they were outside, but they were part of the hotel, sort of like the ground floor, and they had these shops. And one of them was a shop called the Golden Age, which sold sort of pseudo antiques, like um, and anyway, Italian novelties and ashtrays and onyx stuff. And anyway, the couple that used to own it used to come in the hotel and have a drink, and I got to know them quite well. And they lived in Blackpool, and they had a son called Peter, and they introduced me to him and said he wants to get into show business and that's the best way to get in. I said, well, you just got to work hard, and he wanted to go to stage school, etc. So I gave him a little part in a panto, this particular panto I was doing in Ipswich
Yeah.
in 1972. He was 18 years of age, and he sat round backstage with all the old pros in the pantomime, chewing the fat, and they would give him all these showbiz stories. And he got a feeling for this type of entertainment. I mean, he went on to become a very good actor and a TV and a commercials director, and made several. He still makes films. He lives in Hollywood, and he made 3 films about Blackpool.
Yeah.
One of them was a little 10-minute thing for Channel 4, which he featured me. And then the second thing was a film called Hear My Song about Joseph Locke, who was a famous singer in Blackpool in the 50s and 60s, who went into tax exile back in Ireland. Then the third film he made was Funny Bones, which was really about the experience of my granddad, because my granddad, in his variety act, used to do what is called a paper slap routine, where he gets slapped in the face with a rolled up newspaper. It was quite funny. But in the film Funny Bones, he portrayed this being slapped in the face, not with a rolled up newspaper, but with an iron bar. So the newspaper was there, but it had an iron bar, and it killed the guy. So that was the premise of the film, right? It was called Funny Bones because it was allegedly done in a comedic act, right?
Yeah.
And then built up a story around this tragedy, which is really what Funny Bones is about. As you quite rightly said, although it's called Funny Bones, it's not that funny, but it's about funny people,
Yeah.
right? Have you've seen the film?
I have. I have. It's
It's about an era in show business
yeah.
that is interesting, and I'm sure you'd find entertaining. I mean, it's a good little film, actually. Even today, it's built up a cult following. It's people still acknowledge it.
This isn't promotion, but I will say that if you're in the UK, or, well, I'm assuming Ireland as well, but don't quote me on that unless you've looked it up. Funny Bones is available to purchase on the Apple TV app, or
Yeah,
YouTube,
you
or
can you
whatever.
can still download it. Yes, you
Yeah.
still can download it. It's worth a look. It really is worth a look. It's an interesting film.
Yeah.
Even though I say it myself.
Yeah, and if someone was going to redo the slap in the face with a newspaper joke now, they would do it with an iPad, which would hurt a lot more than a newspaper. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, there'd be blood on the floor, and it wouldn't be fake blood that time. Yeah, they'll get dragged off by the feet, probably by the MC. It'd be for safety concerns. Now, now because of with having a film out and having it sort of in that realm, do you think that that sort of opened your horizon to new opportunities because you had branched into the world of film comedy?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I did lots of interviews and auditions for all sorts of TV things and films. And I did quite a few of them. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. And I did a series with Nick Berry down in West Bay in Dorset, which was lovely, called Harbour Lights. I did 2 series with him actually, called Harbour Lights. But shortly after the film, I went to America to work in the States, and oddly enough, I finished up working on a cruise ship.
Mm.
Um, Actually, it wasn't that was before the film came out. I'd been working on a cruise ship. Then I came back and got into acting when I came back off the cruise ship, and the acting thing led to Funny Bones, which was always Funny Bones had been on a back burner for about 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
probably longer, since about '86. It'd been on the back burner, and eventually he sold it to Disney, which was a great idea. And Disney gave him the money and said, "Go off and make your little English film," as they called it. And he did, and he came and he was very true to his roots. He went back to Blackpool and made it all about Blackpool, which was great, absolutely fabulous. And as I say, most of it was filmed in and around Blackpool, which was great.
Yeah. And
But yes, and it did enhance my acting side of the career. Yeah. But I still always did stand up
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that when you do, and I think I can't, I think there must be a few people that do something similar now and they have their acting work and their stand-up. And I think that sort of just keeps your mind creatively active because in the acting role you might not always have control because you're something in someone else's film or in doing something
correct.
else, someone else. And then with the stand-up, it's well, 9 out of 10 times it's your own thing.
Down,
And do you think that
down to
that sort
you.
of helped you with your creative brain to be able to keep your hand into the creative world?
Yes, absolutely. And it filming and stand up or filming in a story situation
Yeah.
where you have got a fourth wall that you're not
Yeah.
supposed to look through. See, in stand up, you actually look at the audience, which is different to filming. So it's a different discipline,
Yeah.
really. It's a discipline of talking directly to the actor, right, as opposed to talking to a camera, which is a slightly different discipline. A lot of actors can't actually talk to a camera
Yeah.
because they've been trained not to,
Mm.
right? And they do find it differently because it's called breaking the fourth wall. You see, as soon as if I'm talking to an actor, I'll be talking to him over here, and he'd be replying to me, and then you'd see the shot of him replying to me, but you'd never see that shot,
Yeah.
me looking in the camera, because it that makes it unreal,
Yeah.
you know.
And now doing a dramatic shift from comedy to what I like to call light 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 drama because it's not horrific graphic murder. It's very light murder and light crime, which is cozy crime, but it's a little bit less. It's less 2 p.m., more 8 p.m. Or 9 p.m. It depends on what time slot and what channel you're watching it on. What was it like appearing in the brilliant, the ever brilliant Hetty Wainthropp Investigates?
Oh, gosh, that was a long time ago. Yeah, I did that in would you believe 1996.
Wow.
Yeah, it was lovely. No, everything I've ever done, I've
Yeah.
always enjoyed it. I really have. I can't say I've come away from anything, and honestly said I haven't enjoyed it because it's as I say, it's all everything's different. The script's different,
Yeah.
the director's different. You meet new people, and you just have to adapt to that situation. I mean, no, it was good. I
Yeah.
mean, it was good. I mean, it's recently been repeated on BBC Four, which is lovely. Nice to see. And yeah, I'd forgotten the episode. It was so long ago. My God, it was what was it, 30 years ago? It's crazy, really. Where the time goes.
And I just think that with watching when you watch it now, because of how many times Keeping Up Appearances is still broadcast on Gold, it's probably broadcasting right now as we speak, because it just does. And I think the watching the shift between Patricia Routledge as this like overzealous comedy character, and then watching her become this very serious character, you can sort of see, you can tell that she was a fabulous actor, and you can tell that
Oh
she's
yeah,
got that
absolutely,
skill. And
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
do you notice that when you're acting in something that is, as I said, like a lightish crime, because it's still serious, but it's
yeah.
not as murderous as Saw. I can't think of any other murderer things. But do you think that you can tell that the shift of a good actor when you work with them in a drama when you've previously seen them in the comedy roles.
Oh yes, yes. I mean, people say the hardest thing to do is comedy,
Yeah,
and particularly it's particularly hard on the screen because it needs to be edited properly.
yeah,
As a comedy edit, which is slightly different to a dramatic edit. And yes, she was a great actress. There was no
mm,
doubt about it because she played those two roles beautifully. I mean, and they were see in most actors, you're going to get a bit of them in everything.
yeah,
A bit of them. It's not going to be all. I mean, there are some actors who can just go into a part, and just the part engulfs them,
mm,
so you don't see anything of them. They are what is known as character actors,
yeah,
right? But I think once you become known for doing something, it's always good to have a little bit of you in it. It's you doing it, really. It's your interpretation of it, which is all you can hope for, really. Yeah. But you're quite right. She is a very good actress, and she encompassed both parts very well. She had that lovely homely attitude about her.
yeah,
Um, and as I said, Hyacinth Bouquet was very much a comedy character, but she was
yeah,
real, absolutely real, which is hard to do.
yeah. Do you think that they say that comedy's hard in a sense of when you're doing a screen comedy that isn't in front of a live audience because you yourself have to work out where should the laugh be because you're not waiting for the audience to finish hysterically laughing to the sense of you can hear someone coughing to tell it's a real audience. But do you think
Yeah.
it's harder because of the lack of audience and because the crew aren't allowed to laugh, so you've just sort of got to play it as straight as possible, even though you know in the outcome, as you said, they'll do the comedy edit and it'll be funny in the end.
Yeah, well, it really is down to the director,
Yeah,
you know, how he edits the bit together, and how long he takes on the take. If you're doing a take and it should have some kind of a laugh on it, then he will time it with the cut, with
mm,
the edit. Really, you should. That's what should happen. And in most cases does.
yeah,
But like all comedy, there has to be some kind of reality behind it. There has to be, you have to believe that what they're doing on the screen is for real. You have to believe it for it to be comedic, because then it's got somewhere to go.
yeah,
If 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 what you're doing is not real, it's not like a real person, it's like a silly person,
yeah,
comedy person, then it's harder to believe. If somebody like Jerry Lewis is doing something um, in comedy,
mm,
then it's very hard to believe that he's doing it for real.
yeah,
If he's trying to be funny throughout it, I think he has to have a certain amount of realism as well in it. Um, well, in my view, a lot of realism. Because out of the reality will come the comedy. As per the recent wonderful series called Small Profits, which I'm sure you're aware of, was absolutely brilliantly written and performed. Did you see it?
I did, and I think I would call that in a list of like gentle comedy where it's like
Yes.
there's nothing like too dramatic occurring, but you can sort of follow it like Detectorists.
Yeah.
You sort of feel that gentleness with it.
Yeah, but there were real people.
Yeah,
Real people working in the do-it-yourself shop.
yeah,
And really not knowing what. And they were saying, do you sell buckets? And he stood in front of him and he said, no, we don't sell buckets. Because he hadn't noticed them. He was just the life was passing. It was just wonderful, and you
yeah,
believed him. You'd say, "No, I wouldn't have noticed the buckets either."
yeah,
Really,
yeah.
Would- you
I
know,
just,
we just. I mean, it picked up momentum. I
yeah.
mean, there were small profit societies around now, and they.
I think that what Small Profit does do is that I feel really sorry for is when they filmed the bucket scene, I do feel sorry for whichever person had to spend hours setting that up several
Oh,
different times and go. how many buckets have we got now? And then forgetting that could be a sketch of its own. Just the person trying to count how many buckets they've got, and then
Yeah,
getting confused. Um, why not? Um, but it having comedies like that showcases that comedy could come in any form. It could be laugh out loud funny, like Del Boy falling through the bar and all these other famous things. But you can also have gentle stuff like in Detectorists when they found all the gold. That's like oh, it's really funny because they've not noticed any of that's there,
yeah,
but it's nothing too overly dramatic, and the music I think helps gentleness. And do you think that when you watch back these shows and whatnot, do you think that it is, as I've said, do you think it is the music that helps to make the show feel the way you feel about it?
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's all part of it. I think
Mm,
it's all part of it. And if it's done cleverly,
yeah,
and which that was, it was beautifully shot and filmed. And as I say, you just believed everything about it. It was
yeah,
lovely. It was
yeah,
just beautifully done. I mean, it was at the end of the day, it was fantasy, but it was so beautifully put together that you believed it.
yeah,
He believed it.
yeah,
Michael Palin believed it, and you knew that what they were doing, they were believing in, which is where the comedy comes from. I mean, there's a lovely scene when the thing in the bottle, when he asked him a question, the thing in the bottle went, I don't know. It was just beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful stuff, beautiful stuff.
Yeah. And with you having this illustrious career that doesn't end, are you the type of person that would watch yourself back for improvement reason, or are you the one that decides I'm not going to watch it and I'm going to run as far away as possible until it's over?
Yeah, I'm a bit like that. I think most actors are. Most hate seeing themselves. I mean, I just see, but when I look at my old
Yeah,
self, when I was young, a lot younger, and I look at it, and I just because you can always improve on it, and you look at it and you think, oh, I wouldn't have done that like that again if I had another take at it.
yeah,
But so some things you can look at and you go, yeah, that was all right. It was all right, it was okay. And a lot of the time it's because people have told you it's all right and they quite enjoy it. But generally speaking, actors don't really like looking at themselves because you're seeing yourself differently. So the only time you look at yourself is in a mirror.
yeah,
Whereas on a film, it's exactly as you are, right? You're not seeing a mirror image of that person.
yeah.
You're seeing it in reality, and sometimes your face looks different. It's an odd feeling, and any actor will tell you, "Oh, they can't watch them." So I just hate it when I'm on TV. I mean, I watch it the first
Yeah,
time
yeah,
once, and then I
yeah.
can't be bothered after that. It's hard work.
And one of the other things that is in the same realm as Hetty Wainwright, because Hetty Wainwright is the drama from the murderer and from that side of it, and this one is from the other side of what happens next when they stop the said person as they've injured someone. It's the worst segue I've ever done, but I shall stick with it. Um, but it's one of those shows that is still on today. Was on just on Saturday, and it's still a juggernaut, and it's still not a soap. No matter how many people say it is a soap, yes, they wash their hands using soap, but it's not a soap opera. What was it like working on an episode of, well, the best of the British Nino shows, Casualty?
Oh gosh, cool. That was a while ago. It was great, but once again, you're going into a program that is set.
Yeah,
Right, there's the doctors there, the nurses. But I'll tell you a story about when I did Casualty. Derek, um, I've got you played Charlie.
yeah, yeah,
He plays Charlie. He said to me, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, "No." He said, "I was in a double act with my sister called Elaine and Derek, and they were on variety bills
yeah,
when I worked with the Bachelors, and we did a tour with them, and they were called Elaine and Derek, and I didn't recognize him, and he was playing Charlie in Casualty, and he still writes music, still does, and it was lovely because of course I remembered you,
yeah,
of course you did, of course you, but I didn't to see associate the two of them. I didn't. The penny didn't drop until we worked together. But it was lovely. He wanted to do some comedy with him, but they wouldn't allow it because we wanted to do it. It was an old gag
yeah,
where I say. "Do you know who I am?" Because I was playing a part of an actor. I said, "Do you know who I am?" And he wanted to say no, but if you ask the matron, she'll tell you, right? But the director said no, he wouldn't do that. He's a nurse, right? He wouldn't do that. So they wouldn't let him do it, which was a shame.
Wow. And Casualty is one of those programs where you can have those light-hearted moments, as well as the dramatically serious moments. There was a scene quite recently in one of the recent episodes where they were faffed about in wheelchairs and in wheelchair races down a corridor. See, it's supposed to be a hard-hitting drama about doctors and nurses trying to save lives, but they were too busy preoccupied with the wheelchair races. But we never found out who won. But when you're working on a show like Casualty, is it one of those things where you have to get it right the first time, or did they allow you to have several takes to make sure you got the exact
Well,
performance you
depending
wanted?
on whether you get it right or not. I mean, like all filming or series, wherever you're filming, you're meant to turn up on set ready to go,
Yeah,
and they'll do a rehearsal, and they'll work out the logistics of where you should be standing, if it's behind a counter or behind a baby's pram or whatever you the action of the scene maybe, or sitting at a table eating a meal or whatever. They'll work out the logistics of it and the camera angles and say we're going to shoot it from this angle and that angle and so on and so on. And then they'll light the scene accordingly and then bring you back in and record it. And really, all the rehearsal is done by yourself. You've really got to learn the lines, and once you get on the set, be ready to go. Um, if you screwed up and you knew you'd screwed up, you could say, "I didn't do that the way I'd like to do it. Can we have another go at it?" And usually, they will say, "Of course you can." You
yeah,
know.
yeah. And one of the other things in a list of long running shows that ran for quite a while, and I would say has one of the best theme tunes. And my college teachers once said, "Oh, don't sing that. It's now stuck in my head because it's so catchy." What was it like working in the brilliant Heartbeat?
Well, Heartbeat was great. I mean, funnily enough, when I did Heartbeat, I didn't realize that Nick Thomas and the producer were going to come back for me to do Harbour Lights.
Yeah.
Just around the turn of the century, I would say, around 2000, it was happened, and so I did that. I did that because, and I knew Bill Maynard very well, who was in playing Greengrass in Heartbeat, and I had a couple of scenes with him, which was nice, and a couple of scenes with Nick Berry, which was even nicer, and then when Heartbeat came, not Heartbeat, Harbour Lights came along, they asked would I be available to go and do the series with Nick. So I was really thrilled about that. I was chuffed about that because it was nice working with them both.
And with having appeared on TV throughout the years, have you noticed how the filming and how the process of making TV and film has changed over the years?
Well, basically, it's the same. Basically, it's the same.
Yeah.
I think the technology has got more sophisticated. Now they have steady cams where they just hold them up, big heavy cameras, but they have a way of having a balance system on their body, which is wonderful. And the thing I love about Britain's work is the fact that their film and TV is of such a high quality.
Mm.
When they do it, nothing is left to chance. They cast things as well as they possibly can. They don't leave much to chance, and they just have a very professional outlook towards it. And I think this country is revered because of it. Because of it, there's nothing rushed. Usually the
Yeah.
time is taken, and I just like the pure professionalism of working with a British crew. They really are all superb in their own way. It's just wonderful. They get everything as near right as they possibly can. Yeah.
And I think a good example of that is when you watch the hugely successful adolescents, because that sort of showcases one the British talent that we've got at the moment and coming up with obviously with Owen Cooper being the up and comer, and then you have the filming style to showcase that in Britain we can do something that hasn't really been done on that big of a scale before. Do you think does that make you proud to be in the industry when you see shows like that doing so well in the world stage, not just in the British stage?
Oh yeah, I mean, as I said, because we Britain is revered for for classy stuff.
Yeah,
We do have a certain amount of class when we do stuff. When you see the people working in it, and when you know the people working in it, you sort of know you're in safe hands. You can feel that they know what they're doing, and that just makes such a difference. It really does make such a difference, and gives you confidence to do it even better
yeah.
because the quality is so good.
And so, as we get to this point in the interview, the people out there that are watching are enjoying it, of course, yeah. What advice would you give someone that might be watching this that would want to get into not just comedy but show business in general?
That's always a $1 million question, isn't it? It's like most jobs that you revere.
Yeah,
I think when you're a youngster, particularly if you want to get into something in show business, it always seems to be not obtainable.
mm,
It always seems to be out there, but how do you get in? And it's a difficult question to answer because you don't really know how you get
yeah,
in. A lot of people in show business sort of drift into it some way or other. They're doing something, and an opportunity arises. I mean, somebody said, life is full of opportunities. It's whether you take the right ones, which is true, of
yeah,
course. You do get offered opportunities. I mean, I know it was called opportunity notes when I did it, but if I'd have said, oh, I don't want to do it, or I can't do it, or I was unavailable for it, or the opportunity, I didn't take that opportunity, then who knows what would have happened.
yeah,
It's the same with you. If you hadn't started your podcasts, and been successful with them, if you hadn't really started it, and that first time you went, oh, I can't be bothered, it's too hard work setting all this up, and right, it's an opportunity missed.
yeah,
At the time, you don't know it.
mm,
You don't realize it. So
yeah,
you have to grab those opportunities that maybe not seem right,
yeah,
but you grab them all, and maybe one of them will be right. It's always the case of the right time, right place, right time. Excuse me. And who knows where it's going to lead to? You don't know. It might just go nowhere. It might go somewhere. You don't know. But it doesn't. It very rarely happens overnight. Usually, you need to be doing it for a little while before the penny will drop and people will remember you and what you did. You've got all these YouTube channels, and you keep up
yeah,
this momentum. So I mean, you're only a young fella, and you're still good at all this stuff. I mean, I wouldn't know where to begin with it, but you know all about it, and you know what you're doing, and you've got a decent mic, and you've cracked it, which is good. But and all power to your elbow.
thank you. And you said there about some people falling into it. And I think I can't remember if this story is exactly right, but I remember hearing that the bloke that plays the granddad in Mrs. Brown's Boys, shock horror is very good. He was I think he was a window cleaner beforehand. I think he was the window cleaner and then became an actor just
Who
because he
was
was
it? Who was this?
it was it's the bloke that plays the granddad in Mrs. Brown's Boys. I can't remember his name.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I heard the story that he was a window cleaner because obviously they're all that they've kept it in the family because why not? If you've got talent in your family, why not use them? But do you think that it's sort of surprises when you hear those sort of stories? Because I remember it must be the boy that plays Albert in Only Fools and Horses wasn't really an actor before he did.
I think he was
Only
an extra, wasn't he? I think he did. I
yeah,
think he did extra work. Yeah. No, we always hear those stories. I mean, people sometimes are natural actors,
yeah,
right? They don't need any training. They're just natural at what they do, and they can. I think it's not so much of being a natural actor. It's
mm,
being able to do it at the right
yeah,
time, right? If somebody would call it red light time. If you can still do it at red light time when it's important, then you got away with it, because a lot of it is getting away with it anyway.
Yeah.
We all feel as if we're imposters
Yeah.
getting away with it, but it's
Yeah.
true. It's just true. And you can bring people in who have never done it before, who have a natural aptitude for it. People say, "Oh, I didn't go to drama school," but they're brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant, and there's lots of those about. So you know, it's it's whatever works, really.
Yeah. And so as we draw this wonderful, interesting, dictionary defining questionable choice of words, but thesaurus. It'd be really handy at this point in time if access to a thesaurus, but sadly, I'm not Susie Dent, so I don't have access to a thesaurus in my mind. Because obviously she is the only person I can think of that knows more words than anyone else. Um, yeah, yeah, there we go. And
I have it by my side. Oh, I've got a thesaurus underneath it, actually.
wow. Was not expecting it to go there. That's the joys of speech. So we get to this point in the interview, and this, without giving away your home address, where can people track you down on the internet?
Um, well, just Google me, I suppose. Just Google me. Yes, I mean, my second book is out next
Mm.
year. I'm doing. I had one book out which came out about 10 years ago, a biography, autobiography, and I'm going to do a continuation to that because since then lots of things have happened and I've lived longer than expected.
Yeah,
So somebody had a contract out on me 10 years ago and it didn't work out. So I'm still here.
yeah, yeah. And do you think that
Just Google me
yeah,
really, and you'll find me.
and do you think that when you write a book, do you think that it's always important to think that if more things happened in my life than I think is worth documenting, do you think it's important to make room in the book to set up what might happen if you decide to make a sequel with autobiographies?
Oh, I don't know. That's a difficult question, isn't it? I think its circumstances take over.
Hmm.
Since the
Yeah,
last book, my wife died.
yeah,
I have a new wife,
mm,
and I've got quite a lot to talk about in the
yeah,
second book. And I've still been working. I've been doing tours and
yeah,
and doing TV stuff and that. So I've still got quite a bit to talk about.
yeah,
And there's a lot of stuff I have to talk about that I didn't mention in the first book
yeah,
because I didn't have room for it. So there's all that going on. Funnily enough, I was talking to my publisher this morning. We were talking about it, and hopefully it's going to be out next June. Ready for my 90th birthday, would you believe?
yeah. And will the book, because I know that it's the market of the way that people consume literature has sort of developed over the years. Will your book have you reading an audiobook version?
I'm going to do that. I mean, I should have done it for the first book, and I made several attempts, and I was going to make them into
Yeah,
podcasts so that eventually it would be, the entire book.
yeah,
And so yes, the answer to the question is yes. I am going to make um, a vocal recording of it.
yeah. Because I think that it's always important to have those artifacts in the history book. So Agatha Christie, and I love this fact, and you can only really get it in America, but I've heard a preview. Agatha Christie reads her own autobiography. So there's audio of her. I mean, it's not the best audio, but you're not expecting the greatest audio in the world for someone that's been dead quite a while. But her audiobook is incredible because you're listening to her read it, and I think that
Yes,
that sort of enhances the experience. And do you think that that's what you'll find when you come to do it? That it'll enhance the experience because it's
hope so.
your words coming from the book, coming out your mouth in the manner of emotion that you wanted the listener or the reader to take away from the book.
I think you're quite right. I think that's absolutely right. And I think what's happening when I've made attempts to try and do it,
Yeah.
I have attempted it, and I haven't been happy with those attempts.
Mm.
But I'm feeling that I'm ready to do it now. I'm more into it. I think I'll be able to say those words now. I mean, I've got quite a bit of it recorded. already got it down on some sound files, so I'll get them out and have another look at them, but and see if they're usable.
Mm,
Every time I sit down, I think, no, I'll redo that and redo that bit,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that you notice that when the authors got control of the audiobook because they know how they want it to go instead of if you give it off to someone else and the good example of when an audiobook sort of would have worked if the author had been able to read it was I remember hearing the story of Bernard Cribbins. He tried to record his audio book for his book, and
Right.
sadly the audio recording that they did weren't usable because he was he died not that long after all that, and they were unusable, and it was quite sad because I mean they'd got the book audio recorded with someone else doing it, but it was just quite sad that he never got to
Yeah, it is sad. Yes,
finish
I
thing, and
knew
I
I
think
knew Bernie Cribbins very well actually.
yeah
I wrote an act for him once. He was doing a musical show, and because he's an actor, he's not a
yeah
comic, and I had to write him an act. Dear Bernard, yes,
yeah
I earned the princely sum of one bottle of gin.
yeah. But I do think that audiobooks, in a sense, help to immerse yourself in the
It's three
world.
o'clock.
So so Jimmy Cricket did a cracking audiobook, and Peter Kay I think does a really good example of this, where he obviously makes gags about the fact that he's recorded half of it in a deck chair in his garden. That's why you can hear birds in the background tweeting. And then he adds like audio files from the TV shows when he mentions them, and I think it enhances it because you can read and go, "That's a beautiful book," but when you hear the sounds and other sounds and you feel like you know the person more, and, and when you when you like writing the book, do you think, oh, how do I say how would I say that word if I was reading it out loud, or do you think of that separately? Is that like the second
Yeah,
thought?
yes. Funny enough, I discussed this with the publisher, and he thinks
Mm,
that you sort of have to not really read the correct words out of the book, that you have to put a slightly different interpretation on the reading. And I would agree with that.
yeah,
Sometimes when you're reading it, it doesn't always read good enough
yeah,
to speak, but it's good enough to read. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It makes it's more readable
yeah,
than it is speakable.
yeah,
So you have to slightly adapt. I mean, I haven't done that yet. I
yeah.
haven't done the adaptation yet, but I think I need to.
Yeah,
You know.
because it also gives the opportunity of if you think there could have been three more words in that sentence because you missed out a key bit of that you
Yeah,
realize, oh, I could have done with the audiobook, you're able to do that because the listener who might not have the book in their hand, because some people listen and read at the same time, they can get a different version of it because it's like you've missed that element by accident, or you realize it happened to Alex Horn where someone else had the printers had accidentally misspelled a word because he printed someone else's book at the same time. But in the
yeah, yeah.
audio book, he was able to read out the correct word and not use the name John when it was supposed to be Sand because it was
Yes,
some other
yeah.
author. Yeah. And so as we draw close to this interview, I'd like to say thank you. Um, and other than your book, your second book, and other than your appearance in Rob Brydon's hotly anticipated next program, Bill included, what other projects have you got coming up that you're excited for people to see, hear, that you're allowed to talk about?
I'm doing a little film for a friend of mine called Liam Fox, who used to be in
Yeah.
Emmerdale, he's a mate, and he's written this little film which he's going to put into these short film exhibitions.
Mm,
Um, and I'm looking forward to that. And
yeah.
my wife is going to be acting in that also. She is an actress, and she's going to be acting in that. We're doing that in August. But apart from that, really, I just sort of lurch along from one tragedy to the next. But my main thing now is I'm going to get stuck into writing this second book, which I've started, so I'll finish.
Yeah. And so there we have it. Another excellente, tremendous, glorious, every other word I can think of interview. And remember, oh, I've forgotten.